Hello everyone, Dan Swift here, founder and CEO at Numentum, and welcome to the Speaker Series, where we spotlight some of the most interesting minds in the world of revenue generation. At Numentum, we help forward-thinking B2B organizations create better buyer experiences and deliver new momentum to their revenue engine. On this episode of the Speaker Series, we speak with Outreach Global Innovation Evangelist, Mary Shea. We have a great conversation around my admiration for her, the importance of passion and intensity, and how success isn't just granted, but attained. So Mary, you're one of the people that I genuinely look up to the most and have learned the most from in the last 5 years. So first of all, a massive thank you to you for everything that you've done, not only for me, but also for the industry at large. But why don't you get us started? You're relatively new in your new role at Outreach. So can you tell us a little bit about Outreach and how the company really helps the market?
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan, and thanks for your kind words. So for most of you, you must know Outreach already, but if you don't, we are a foundational sales technology provider. The company's headquartered in Seattle, Washington, although we're all working remotely these days. And we help organizations of all shapes and sizes provide their selling organizations with the necessary platform to help them manage and orchestrate their omni-channel interactions across the entire customer lifecycle. So when people think about sales engagement, oftentimes they think of it really narrowly as a technology or tool that's going to help those front of the cycle reps or high velocity reps manage their cadences and drive efficiencies. And that's really just a small piece of engagement. The category is rapidly expanding, and Outreach is really leading the expansion of the category by providing workflows and user interface and additional products that we've just recently launched that support front of the cycle reps, closers and post-sale personnel in a range of ways as the sales profession becomes really more digitally first oriented, right? I think we're in a world where selling and buying will eventually happen in a hybrid model, but very heavily architected or indexed towards those digital interactions. And so we help companies make their sellers more effective, more efficient, and deliver better experiences to their customers.
Amazing. And we're obviously massive advocates of Outreach. So really excited when you made the move over there. Now we're going to come back to Outreach a little later on. What I really want to dig into is career and career progression. So careers are seldom linear, right? And I'd like to dig into your experience over the last few years. So let's actually start with your first job. Where did you get started? What was it?
Yeah, well, I assume you're not referring to me being an entrepreneur and starting my own baking company, which I started when I was 12, and I went door to door selling loaves of Irish bread. But
love it.
So we'll talk about my first job outside of college. And actually, the business world is a second career for me. My first career was as a professional musician. I was an oboist, graduate of Boston University and New England Conservatory of Music. And my first job was playing English horn in the Mexico City Philharmonic. I ended up living in Mexico for 4 years, touring all over the country, and really falling in love with the country and playing music all over Latin America. So that was my first job. I came back to the States and got a PhD in musicology and ethnomusicology. And a very long story, to make a long story short, I found my way into Forrester. And it was a small company at the time. I was employee number 93. I talked myself into a position as I guess, SDR, if we called them that at that time. And they took a flyer on me, which, I didn't have the qualifications, but I was there at the right time at the right moment. And I worked very, very hard. And I had some wonderful mentors. And I think the rest is history.
Now let's talk about the rest is history. So most of us have, if we're fortunate enough to have one of those pivotal moments in our careers that sets us out on the trajectory that clearly you've gone on. So when you think over the X number of years, is there one defining moment in your career that you think of that was that trajectory moment?
Yeah, I think, I've been around for a while and I've had a lengthy career, and I do a lot of things and I have a lot of different interests. And so I think, the big theme in terms of the pivotal moment, I think there's been really two pivotal moments, or actually three, is being willing to take risk, calculated risk. So when I first went to Forrester, and that completely changed the trajectory of my career, I took a risk from being an academic, having a PhD in the humanities. I was 35 years old and I started out as an inside sales rep. I was finishing my dissertation. It was a very humbling experience. It was, completely nonlinear, right, from what you would have expected me to do. And I took a chance because I believed in the people, I believed in the mission, and I thought I was going to be part of something really, really incredible. And that's happened 2 or 3 other times in my career. But I think the theme is if you see an opportunity, take that risk. Don't sit by the sidelines. And that's where I've gotten the highest return on investment for my career.
And you've gone to outreach, so I don't see that necessarily as a risk, because obviously a huge, incredible organization doing some incredibly innovative things, but it is stepping away from the Forrester experience that you'd had up until that point. So maybe there is a risk there. So talk to me a little bit about
it's always a risk when you do something new, right? You never really know. I mean, you could do all your research. And of course, I knew outreach, the company and the technology extremely well from the wave that I did. And I know all the executives and understood the culture. But you never really know until you know. And honestly, I kind of expected I would spend the balance of my career at Forrester. It's an amazing job being an analyst. You're under this incredible brand. You work with people who are intellectually curious. You have people who are pushing your thought process, and you work with the world's biggest brands. But it was just directionally for me. I was at a place where I had followed the sales tech landscape for 6 years effectively, while that landscape was really developing and categories were forming. And I worked with different types of founders and CEOs and helping around the formation of those categories. And I got to a place where I kind of had accomplished a lot of what I wanted, and I could have stayed there and to continue to do the work. But I am the kind of person that I always want to challenge myself and force myself to get to the next level. And I wanted, honestly, a bigger platform to continue to do the research that's really important to me, whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, getting more females in the B2B sales organization, or, looking at the platformization that's happening right now as there's massive convergence in technology. And Manny, who's our CEO, and Anna Barrett, who's my boss, our CRO, really gave me the opportunity to work with me to shape up a role that really leans into my strengths and what I love to do. So I'm super, super excited.
I want to talk about passion. Now, clearly you ooze passion. Everything that you do, I feel it. So what do you, when you talk about passion, being passionate is obviously so important, but what drives you? What are you most passionate about?
Wow. Yeah. I feel like, I have to be at a company where I'm really aligned with the corporate values. And, I guess what I'm passionate about now is constantly learning, trying new things, and having an impact or leaving some sort of a legacy on the world, making the world a better place than, it was before I touched it in some way. And I know that, we can only have so much of an impact in life, but whether that's local, in my community or, in my work environment. Right now, we've been doing, a ton of things for Pride and to bring more awareness to our organization around LGBTQI rights and education. So for me, I guess it's, learning new stuff and feeling like I can contribute in a great way to society, and even just, sort of the business world, helping the business world understand the impact that technology can have to transform experiences between buyers and sellers. So I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but that's what I'm thinking about.
Well, you definitely did. And like I said, I've learned so much from you over the years, and it's the passion behind what you do that I think helps people like us, like myself, want to learn more and continue to read and watch and learn from you. So that passion really does shine through. But the flip side of passion can be that friction and those frustrations that you may experience. So what's if you have one, I don't know whether you do or not, what's a non-starter for you? If there's one thing that frustrates you the most when it comes to business, life, people, if there's one thing that frustrates you the most, what is that?
Wow, that's a tough question. And I think I will preface it by saying as I get more sort of tenured in life and in my career, less things frustrate me than they used to. And I think this pandemic has showed a lot of us that, we need to kind of, if we need to, it's an opportunity to reset and reset on our priorities and really focus on the right things. I do get frustrated if people don't see my way of the world, my view. I'm a futurist. I spend time all day long sort of culling through data and thinking about trends and seeing where I see the future of sales technology going, or even the future of our category. And if I can't bring people along on that vision, sometimes I do get frustrated. I'll be honest, I get frustrated if people don't have intellectual curiosity and get up to speed on things really, really quickly, because my mind's constantly moving. I'm thinking about 2 or 3 or 4 different threads at the same time. And very early in my career, and this was, I think, a real learning experience for me as a manager when I first became a sales manager, I was frustrated by people who didn't have the passion and commitment that I did. And like, not everyone is going to be as intense as a Forrester analyst or whatever, right? So there's all kinds of different people in the world. And so I've had to take a step back and understand people assimilate information differently. They have different level of commitments to their work, and not to sort of grade and judge people on the standards that I have for myself.
Yeah, I hear you. It's people very much look at the world differently, different topics, have different drivers, things are happening in their own lives, business lives, and it's getting to know people in that way. I feel as though we have some of the same frustrations as well. Let me ask you a little bit about your experience very briefly with Empire. So we obviously chatted a lot during your time when I was at Sprinkler, and obviously you were continuing at Forrester, and then again when we became an Empire, a customer of Forrester's in 2019. Lots of conversations, but is there one big thing, one thing that maybe you'll learn from our conversations with Empire, and what would that thing be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I learned was also another humbling experience. I was a social media analyst at Forrester, and I asked you for some coaching on my own LinkedIn site. So Dan was very kind enough to come back to me with a nice write-up and a video, and had some very, very specific advice on how to present myself in a more effective way. It was a little shocking, but I was also really grateful for the feedback. And so I think the biggest thing I've learned from Empire is that being successful in a digital remote world, it's not going to just come naturally to sellers. And it didn't even come naturally to me in every way as an analyst who follows the space day to day. And so I think it's really important for organizations to thoughtfully and intentionally acquire the skills that to help their sellers acquire the skills that they're going to need to interact in a predominantly digital first world that will become hybrid over time. But still, you need training, you need tools, you need methods, you need to buff up on sort of how you go to market as a seller or sales manager or leader to account for a fundamentally different environment than you probably hired people to be effective in. So it's been, I think what you do is absolutely really, really important. And I've personally learned from you about how to have a on-trend LinkedIn profile and to allow some authenticity and vulnerability of who I am as a person to show through on that profile. So that was the biggest thing I learned from you.
Well, thank you. And what's really interesting as well is, again, as an individual, Mary, despite you leading the industry, you also are so humble, where you allowed me to coach, and also you took it and advocate for that learning. So thank you for being you. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun, Mary, if you're open to it. We've got a a quick fire round of questions for you. So most of them might be one-word answers. You might want to elaborate. I might ask you to elaborate on a few of them, but are you ready for this quick fire round?
I think I'm ready.
All right, let's have a little fun. Ladies and gentlemen, the quick fire round. Okay, first question. Mary, who is your hero?
Well, it's Pride Month, so my hero is Billie Jean King, who is a massive advocate for Title IX and LGBTQIA rights and equality in parity in compensation, particularly for female athletes. Now, that wasn't a one-word answer, so I apologize. I'll try to do better next time.
They don't have to be one word. They might be, but they don't have to be. Love it. Best sales kickoff that you've ever been to?
Well, I think the best one I went to was one where I was actually speaking at it, and it was in Dubai, and just the sheer, experience of being in a country that was so different was super exciting.
Morning lark or night owl?
What do you think?
I'm going to say both. I feel as though you get up really early and then go to bed really late and just crush life in between, but I might be wrong. What's the answer?
I think that was for a very large part of my work life, my life. I don't require a lot of sleep. You're not wrong. I do wear an aura to make sure that I capture my sleep data and that I get enough, but I'm actually a night owl.
Ah, there you go. All right, last Halloween costume.
I have no idea, but I will tell you my first one. And it was in the 60s, and I dressed up as a big TV, and I had this big, big box with my head in the middle of it.
Love it. Favorite city in the world?
Istanbul.
Can you tell us why?
It's absolutely beautiful. The architecture, the history, and the cross-pollination of Europe and Asia coming together. And of course, the Bosphorus Strait is gorgeous.
There you go. City or country that you've not been to yet, but you'd most like to visit?
Australia.
Ah, I love Australia. Keep moving. What brings you joy, Mary?
Being in the outdoors with friends and just taking it all in.
Love it. How many cups of coffee per day?
2.
There you go.
No cream and sugar, solely black.
There you go. Love it. Favorite manager ever, and why?
My current manager, of course. Because I'm not an idiot.
And the and why bit is because it's my current one. What would you tell your younger self?
Don't take yourself so seriously.
Same for me. Best piece of advice for recent college graduates?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would say, your next step, your first career choice is not necessarily going to be your last. So don't overthink it. Just get out there, get some experience, and learn what you can learn. And don't think you're going to be stuck in that niche forever.